When people pick up How to Be Heard Without Screaming, usually it's the title that grabs them because screamers are definitely attracted to the book because they know that it's not the most effective communication method. As soon as you start screaming, people put walls up and their defense shields come up. But they're often surprised when they start digging into the book that it's a lot of personal stories. It's, in effect, a memoir of how I learned how to become an effective communicator. And chapter one is what I want to talk about today because it poses the question, what shut you up and shut you down? Usually we can look back over our shoulder and see a moment or an instance that caused us to abdicate our own voice. I recall in the book that prior to age 10, I was an exuberant kid who had no problem speaking up. And yet, upon reflection and a lot of therapy, at age 10, my dad died. And as a young girl, trying to process that immense grief was coupled with this sense of knowing my mom, age 37, who now had to raise two girls, didn't need any additional stress. So I was going to be such a good girl. I didn't want to disrupt anything. I didn't want even to cry because I didn't want to add to her own grief. And while it was well intentioned, what it created was a young woman and then an adult who placed everybody else's feelings above my own. I didn't want to upset anyone. So I just lived with upsetting myself or even suppressing the feelings so deeply that I didn't even deal with what I was going through. A real breakthrough for me was realizing that that's where I shut up and shut down. And I gave myself permission to feel, to process, and then to speak. Because what you have to say is not always going to be what people want to hear, but you must be true to yourself. It's good for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And it is the baseline from which all good communication springs forth. So do yourself a favor. Every chapter of the book ends with an exercise where you can challenge yourself to grow. And exercise number one is answering the question, what shut you up and shut you down? Go back there and give yourself permission to speak up.